2025 was a fantastic year for Dreamworld, following the opening of Rivertown in late 2024, which featured three highly popular additions: Mississippi Motors, Jane's Rivertown Restaurant, and the main centerpiece attraction, Jungle Rush. Dreamworld set a new standard for high-quality theming and immersive experiences at Australian theme parks, but they didn't stop there. Along with countless quality-of-life upgrades and changes to the park as a whole, and with the recent addition of King Claude, the brand new Intamin gyro swing, it looks like they're continuing to lift the bar even higher. But what's next on the pipeline at Dreamworld, and what can we expect? While information is limited at this stage, thanks to the incredible Dane's Theme Park Life, the podcast, which you should definitely check out, we have some exciting information from Dreamworld and Coast Entertainment CEO Greg Yong, as well as the very talented creative lead Laine Firth. Dane sat down for an interview live from the Big Brother house and covered a lot of ground from the past, present, and future of Dreamworld. It's a great interview and I won't give everything away because I highly recommend listening to it. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts. However, there were three specific discussion points that I found particularly interesting and insightful that I'd like to talk about. Number 1. Rivertown. In the new interview, Dane recalls something Greg said following the opening of Rivertown. Greg mentioned there were some aspects of the new precinct that he wasn't happy with, and there were still changes on the way. And in this new interview, that's something he's consistent with.
You know, there's a few things around the Jungle Rush attraction that I'm still not wrapped with in terms of things that got to be finished still. So
it's still not finished.
Not quite as Laine and I initially envisaged. And so Rivertown and Jungle Rush, the temple particularly, a bit more work to be done. There's just a few things, you know, in the switchback chamber and on the outside of the temple around, you know, waterfalls and things like that aren't there. And I think they will be really additive when we get them.
Okay.
But I can tell you that I'm not giving up on it. I will make sure that we get that to how we wanted it to be from day one.
It sounds like there still could be more changes on the way to Rivertown, which is very exciting and interesting. I wonder what those changes could be. I would personally love to see a few more additions to Jungle Rush. It's certainly a fantastic and impressive ride, especially from a theming standpoint. However, there are some aspects of the experience that feel a bit empty, such as some of the dark ride sections of the coaster. I would love to see this fleshed out a bit more. I would also love to see the storyline integrated into the ride a little bit more, even through the queuing experience. Earth Story, the team who came up with the concept for Rivertown, put a lot of backstory and lore into the area, so there's a lot to work from. I think having some kind of voiceover that plays in the queue would be really neat, like maybe audio recordings that Jane and Murray recorded themselves, for example. I would also love to see that story integrated into the precinct as a whole. I think the area is fantastic, but some interactive elements would be really cool. You see things like this a lot in areas like Adventureland at Disney parks, for example. A few things I could think of off the top of my head would be a lookout point near the entrance of Rivertown with some binoculars so you could view Jungle Rush and Mississippi Motors from a distance. A gramophone or something similar that plays themed audio when you press a button would be really cool as well. And last but not least, some meet and greet characters or interactive performers. A couple of years back, Dreamworld introduced 3 new characters, which I think would be really cool to meet in the park. And I think Rivertown would be a great spot for them, as well as Jane and Murray, of course. And one final thing I would love to see would be themed uniforms for the staff. When Rivertown originally opened, many of the staff were dressed in Explorer-style outfits, which I thought was awesome. But after that, the staff were just wearing regular Dreamworld uniforms. I think that would be the icing on the cake. What changes would you like to see added to Rivertown? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you're enjoying this video, please feel free to leave a like or subscribe for more. Moving along to point number 2, accommodation. This is something I've been talking about personally for a very long time, so it was great to hear a bit more insight into the Dreamworld team's thought process behind this.
When I was in the US recently, I was looking at a lot of attractions for sure, but just as much time looking at accommodation. And so what you'll see at Dreamworld over the next few years is thinking about the site more broadly. We have aspirations to do an incredible hotel here.
On site?
On site, yeah. We want to do a great hotel here, a really great hotel. It's a family hotel that really fits in with what we're trying to do here at Dreamworld. So we spent a lot of time thinking about that. We're trying to create a destination precinct. So we're thinking really hard about the hotel. We're thinking really hard about, you know, a retail and dining and entertainment precinct that kind of brings the hotel and the theme park together. There's really good ones of those around the world. There's really bad ones of those around the world. And so we're really trying to get that right.
I definitely think Dreamworld needs some accommodation, especially a high quality option adjacent to the park. Greg did mention a hotel he was inspired by at Phantasialand. I believe he's referencing the one where you get a view of one of the coasters from inside the park. Something like that would be super cool. I think a great spot for some accommodation would be in the old vintage cars site. It would be cool, for example, if guests got early park access or something and breakfast at Jane's. A shopping and dining precinct would also be fantastic nearby the park. It's great to hear that they're taking time to think of a good way to integrate this into the park. A lot of people don't think the park is big enough for these additions, but I personally disagree. I think that looking at it from that perspective is the wrong way of approaching it, because it's not really a question of what's inside the park. It's kind of the opposite. The point is, most visitors to the park are tourists, and most of those tourists need accommodation. They also need somewhere to eat, somewhere to shop, and somewhere to relax. Theme parks are essentially big shops with rides. Most of the revenue comes from food, drinks, and merchandise sales. When guests are inside the park, Dreamworld has a captive audience. They've got leverage. The guests can eat, drink, and shop at outlets all under their control. But the second the guests walk out of the park, Dreamworld loses that leverage and no longer has any influence because there's nothing there. There's an entire smorgasbord of income streams they're missing out on. The guests simply take their wallets, hop into their rental cars, and drive to a nearby shopping mall or back to their hotel to spend their money. As I mentioned, most visitors are tourists, and most tourists are families. And families are made up of different generations. Children, parents, grandparents, each a different demographic with different requirements. These changes are the ultimate way to appeal to all of those demographics. Generally speaking, when families go on vacation, they want a safe, convenient, relaxing way to spend their time and money. People don't want to drive for hours back and forth or catch public transport between their hotels and theme parks. That might actually be an active reason why a lot of people don't visit the parks. If there was a resort accommodation on site and shopping and dining with everything a family going on holiday would need or want, it would turn Dreamworld into a destination rather than somewhere people visit for part of their day during part of their holidays. At the moment, Dreamworld has a fraction of the cake, but with accommodation, shopping, and dining, if done correctly, they could have a cake factory. That's my opinion, and a lot of people may disagree. They say, "Oh, Mr. YumYum, Dreamworld doesn't have a Giga Coaster yet. Why would they need a hotel?" That's not stopping people from staying at all the other hotels on the Gold Coast. Last time I checked, it wasn't a requirement to have a coaster to have a hotel. The point is, Dreamworld has no hotel. They're losing potential revenue to people they're not even in competition with yet because they don't have an option, so they need an option to get in the arena. What do you think about accommodation and a shopping and dining precinct at Dreamworld? How would you like to see them integrate this into the area? Let me know down below in the comments. And for the final point, the question that's on everyone's mind is, what is the next attraction to Dreamworld? Well, unfortunately, as much as Dane tried to pry an answer out of Greg and Laine, we didn't get anything concrete.
Do you already know? You both are acting like you already know what's going on.
No, we don't.
No.
We got a list.
Okay. Yeah,
But
okay.
we don't know.
Dane threw out his wish list, and I think the Dreamworld team must be professional poker players because they didn't give anything away.
I'd love to see like a tilt coaster. I've seen a couple of those around the place. A dive coaster would be really, really cool.
Through 3 or 4
Okay.
things on our mind. Yeah.
Can I guess one? And can you give me a wink or a nod if I'm right? Is one of them some sort of water attraction?
There's water in it. Yeah. There'd be water in something.
This is fun.
They did briefly touch upon the idea of water-based attractions, but it sounds like they would only want to do a water attraction if it was something truly unique and special and that was able to operate year-round.
I'm on the fence a bit about water rides. Water rides are great.
Yeah.
And you could argue, and some people will say that every park needs water.
Yeah.
The thing I'd say is in Australia, all the water rides that we've got around the country, they don't get ridden all year.
Yeah.
And so for mine, it would have to be a pretty impressive water
Okay.
ride that has a lot of other things to it to
Okay.
make it make sense, because I want to have a 12-month-a-year ride, not a ride that's open for a bit and then closed all winter.
Yeah.
There's no need for that. So, that's on our minds. Dark rides are on our minds. Coasters are on our minds. There's lots of different things that are out there.
They also spoke about visiting IAAPA, which is a huge annual convention where ride manufacturers, parks, and other people in the industry gather to sell and purchase attractions. But there still weren't any clues on what to expect. However, purely speculating here, but Dreamworld did recently work with Intamin once again on King Claw, and Intamin is somewhat well known for doing package deals. It's like when you buy a car or anything expensive, the person selling it to you will want to dangle something irresistible you can't possibly turn down. So there is a chance that Dreamworld and Intamin will work together again in the near future. My personal bet would be a retheme and upgrade to Motor Coaster. I'm not talking King Motor Coaster or anything, but if they could upgrade this and retheme it to tie it into Rivertown, I think that would be great. I'm not particularly literate with what other attractions Intamin has, but if there are any specific ones you can think of you'd like to see, let me know down below. Or if there's any other rides or attractions you would like to see added. Anyway, those are the main points I found interesting from the interview. But as I mentioned already, it's a fantastic podcast to listen to, and I highly recommend checking it out. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, a friendly comment, or subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Before we finish, I'd like to give a huge thank you to all the members and sponsors of Team YumYum for supporting my content. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.